to protect my pregnant girlfriend. After I injured the man who was harassing her, I was arrested and detained. I thought it was just a typical brawl, and that I'd be released after finishing my statement. Unexpectedly, the police informed me that I had damaged one of his kidneys. His family demanded 3,000 RMB in compensation. Otherwise, they'd press charges and send me to prison for years. Back in '93, 2 RMB could buy a whole hen. 3,000 RMB was equivalent to 1,500 chickens. My father died early, and my mother remarried, because there was no one to guide me. I became a total delinquent. Where could I possibly dig up such a huge sum of money? The other side said if there's no money, there's no deal. Finally, the inevitable happened. I was sentenced to 4 years in prison for intentional injury. During the first 2 months in prison, Jingti still came to visit me occasionally. After that, a long time passed without her showing up. When we met again, her face looked incredibly haggard, and her baby bump was gone. That's when it hit me with a shock. Her family had discovered her pregnancy and forced her to get an abortion. This time she came to see me. She had snuck out from her family's watch, just to tell me she was sorry. I regretted it to the core. I slapped my own face, I cursed. Myself. If only I had known when to stop that night. I wouldn't have ended up in prison, and Qingxi wouldn't have been forced to lose our child. Later, when Qingxi told me that she would wait for my release, I pressed my face against the glass of the visiting room and waited. In my heart, I silently vowed that in the future I must let her live in luxury, but I never expected that future would be so short-lived. 4 years later, I completed my sentence and was released. After getting out, I found a job washing dishes at a restaurant and tried to polish myself up to look a bit cleaner using the money saved from my labor while serving time in the camp. I bought a box of gifts and brought them to Qingxi's house. At that moment, it was Qingxi herself who opened the door for me, her face beaming with joy. Her father was sitting in the living room watching TV. He shook his head and called out to see who it was. The moment he saw my face, he gave a cold snort and went back to watching TV. Her mother came out of the kitchen, curious to see who was there. As soon as she saw me, she immediately turned her back and walked straight into the kitchen. I lowered my head, my heart full of shame. Qingxi told me that her parents were just busy. Why don't you come inside? First, then she took the gift bag from my hand and placed it on the tea table. Finally, she pulled me down to sit on the sofa. Just as Qingxi was about to say something to her father, he grabbed the remote and abruptly turned off the TV. No need to call me for dinner. After saying that, he walked straight to his room. Before coming, I knew he wouldn't like me. But I didn't expect things to be this heavy, to the point that he'd rather skip dinner than look at my face. I couldn't sit still. After thinking for a while, I finally decided to leave. I stood up. Maybe I didn't come at the right time. I'll come back another time. Jingta had no choice. Let me walk you out. Just as she finished her sentence, Qingxi's mother stepped out when she saw I was leaving. Then I won't keep you any longer. Qingxi, come here and give me a hand. I knew her mother's intention was for her to stay inside. Qingxi could only nod. Finally, I left, trudging back to my tiny 40 square meter rented room. Back then, streetlights were sparse. I had to walk dozens of meters to see a faint glimmer of light. My heart was in a mess, not knowing where the road ahead would lead. The dishwashing job didn't pay much, and it was incredibly tedious. If it were 4 years ago, a repetitive and boring life. Like, this is something I wouldn't even dream of. Yet now I find it so familiar, probably because I was in there for too long. My wild edges have all been ground smooth. Over 20 days later, I received my first month's salary, only 400,000 Vietnamese dong. I went to the farmer's market, bought 2 San Huang chickens and a box of tea, preparing to go to Qingxi's house for the second time. Just as I arrived downstairs at Qingxi's place, I saw a cart selling tangerines. I immediately bought another kilo of tangerines. Finally, my hands felt heavy with gifts as I walked up the stairs. I was afraid it would be like last time, ruining the old man's meal, so I planned to leave right after handing over the gifts. Qingxi greeted me at the door with a radiant smile. Why did you buy so many things? This chicken and tea are for your parents. A small gesture, I hope they don't mind. These 2 chickens are still alive. They might scratch you in a second. Qingxi took the bags from my right hand. She arranged each item one by one on the tea table, then carried the 2 chickens from my left hand into the kitchen. Right after that, I heard her and her mother exchanging a few words. Wow, 2 whole chickens? Yes. These hens are for laying eggs, can't butcher them yet. Right. Let's raise them for now. If they don't lay eggs by Lunar New Year, we'll make chicken soup. Hearing the conversation between the 2 of them, I felt that this time her mother's mood wasn't so bad. Since it was only my second time visiting, I didn't dare stay too long, fearing the father would retreat to his room again just because of my face. So I said politely, Sir, I'll take my leave now. Qingxi's father frowned, looking at me as if he were checking if I really intended to leave. I gave a wry smile. Well, I bought quite a few things today, so I brought some over for you both. Now that they're delivered, I'll be going now. With that, I turned around, walked out, and closed the door. When I reached the second floor, I saw Qingxi chasing after me. I stopped my pace. hearing Qingqi's footsteps getting closer and closer. By the time she stood before me, she was holding a red nylon bag. She pulled out a pair of gloves from the bag. It's freezing lately, and you still have to use cold water at the dishwashing job. Don't be a fool and just wear rubber gloves. You can line the inside of the rubber ones with another layer of wool gloves. That way, when you're washing dishes, your hands won't get cold. I was actually knitting a wool scarf for you too, but it's not finished yet. When it's done, I'll bring it over to you. At that moment, my eyes suddenly turned red. A woman as good as this. I'll never meet another like her in my entire life. Perhaps because the past few days were so humiliating, I couldn't suppress my emotions. And so I burst into tears. Sobbing, Qingxi stood on a step one level higher than me, holding me in her arms. She coaxed me like a child. It's okay, it's okay. You did great. Didn't you see my mother's expression was quite good today? When I came out just now, Dad didn't even try to stop me. They are giving you a chance. Hearing those words, my heart felt even more pained. I wailed in Qingxi's embrace. After having a good cry, I stood up straight and told her, then I'll come back next time. Yeah, next time you come, no need to bring so many things. Just you being here is enough. After that, I went downstairs. Exiting the alley the way back home this time felt much brighter than the last. Plus, I was wearing the gloves, so my hands didn't feel cold at all. Later on, the frequency of my visits to Qingxi's house increased. Every 2 weeks or so, I would stop by once. When I went, I didn't bring gifts. I only brought some light bulbs and water pipes. Whenever Qingxi visited me at the restaurant, she'd occasionally mention where a light wasn't working, a pipe was leaking a bit, or the bed slats were creaking. I already knew how to fix things, so I wanted to use my break time to head over and do some repairs. For her, Qingxi's mother was a full-time housewife. Normally, she was always at home. Her father was a skilled worker at a state-owned mechanical factory. When I arrived, he was usually at the workshop working. The timing was perfect to avoid each other. Perhaps because I often came over to fix things, Qingxi's mother's attitude toward me improved significantly. That afternoon, I went to their house to fix a water pipe. Just after, I replaced it with a new one. Her mother grabbed a hot towel to wipe my face and hands. Oh, Tuyi, you worked so hard. Usually when I ask her father to fix it, he just keeps procrastinating. Now you fixed everything. At noon, the restaurant doesn't have many customers and the dishes are all washed, so I had some free time to come help. No problem. Her mother looked at me and sighed. It's good. Tuyi, Qingci told me everything. That fight years ago was because that guy was harassing her. You only stepped up to protect her. At your core, you're a good kid. I felt deeply ashamed since I was 15. There had been no one left to guide me. I spent my days loitering on the streets, never imagining that one day I would be called a good kid in the eyes of a parent. Just then, the living room door lock clicked. Open. I heard Qingxi's father's voice. Honey, they've distributed the Lunar New Year supplies. Right after he spoke, I saw him carrying everything: rice oil, smoked meat and wedding, candies. The two of us came face to face instantly. He asked, wait, why are you here? I suddenly became tongue-tied, unable to utter a word. I had always been terrified of her father. I guess there isn't a single guy in this world who, before getting married, isn't afraid of his girlfriend's father. Standing behind him, Qingxi's mother stepped out to defend me. Lately, he's been using his lunch breaks too. Come over and help us with chores. Did you think the broken lights, furniture, and pipes just fix themselves? Whenever you come home, all you do is watch TV. You never lift a finger for housework. Tui did all of it. Hearing that, Qingxi's father's brows furrowed a bit more. He started scanning me from head to toe, feeling awkward. I made an excuse. There's probably more dishes to wash now. I have to get back to work. After saying that, I was about to leave immediately. Her father called out, hey. I was so scared I froze in place. Who would have thought his next words would be, stop by for dinner after your shift? My office just gave out some smoked pork tongue. In a moment first, I felt nervous, then shocked. By the time I could react, it turned into pure joy. And then for some reason, I felt like crying. I quickly turned around and bowed to him. Thank you so much, sir. He just raised his right palm and waved it a few times in the air, using a tone that was slightly annoyed, yet also felt a bit close to say to me, all right, just go. I looked up and saw Qingti, smiling behind her mother. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and then I went back to work with a heart full of joy, truly happy. That moment of happiness, even many years later when I look back, is always the most peaceful memory in my heart. The final day of 1993, which was also New Year's Eve, I celebrated at Qingti's house. Initially, when Qingti invited me, I was still hesitant. It was New Year's Eve. The whole family gathered for the reunion dinner. I feared my presence would ruin their family atmosphere. But Qingti said, it was my dad who told you to come. I was stunned hearing that. Last month when I came over for Labakanji, her father just kept his head down eating, without saying a single word. I thought I had ruined his appetite. I didn't expect to have the chance to visit again. My dad has always been like that. He's emotional and stubborn but has a soft heart. Even if he says he doesn't agree with us being together, he still respects my opinion. Otherwise, how would I dare let you come over? Right after your release, listen, she said. For New Year's Eve, buy 2 cartons of Hongtashan cigarettes. My dad loves that brand. Once he sees the smokes, he'll brighten up immediately. Buy my mom a jar of honey, too. And so on New Year's Eve, I did exactly what Chingti told me: 2 cartons of Hongtashan and a jar of honey. Her parents' expressions were indeed much better. The moment I stepped through the door, the old man who was watching TV paused it. He pointed at the cigarette packs and stared at me. I hurriedly nodded and handed the 2 cartons directly to him. Happy New Year's Eve, sir. Good, very good. Have a seat, sit down. Your mother's in the kitchen. I also have a little gift for her, sir. All right, go ahead. After you're done, come out here and watch TV with me. I stepped into the kitchen, placed the gift bag next to the cutting board, and spoke to her mother. Ma'am, someone came to the restaurant earlier selling wild honey, so I poured a jar for you as a gift. As soon as she saw it, her eyes lit up. She was visibly delighted. Oh, how precious. Look at this. I've never seen honey with such a clear color. I quickly replied. It's Sephora flower honey, ma'am. Right? It's definitely high quality stuff. This needs to go in the fridge immediately. Tu Yi, look at you. Just coming over for dinner but bringing such nice things. While speaking, she excitedly took the honey jar to put it in the fridge. Kingxi and I, who were standing nearby chopping vegetables, looked at each other. She smiled at me, her eyes seemingly asking, "That move was effective, wasn't it?" I just nodded slightly. I remember very clearly when the meal started afterward. Her father opened a bottle of white liquor, told her mother to bring out 2 glasses, and then asked, "Can you drink?" I used my thumb and index finger to signal a little in a C shape. Perhaps the C shape I signaled was a bit too wide, because his eyes suddenly lit up. Wow, that's about 300 to 400 grams of liquor right there. With that, he immediately poured some for me. The reunion dinner had 6 dishes and 1 soup, the braised. Sliced pork head was exceptionally delicious. Kingxi personally filled my bowl to the brim. At first, I felt a bit shy, but her father told me, "You should eat something. Don't just drink on an empty stomach. It's not good for your gastric health." I nodded and actually sat there drinking with him. After finishing 1 glass, he refilled it for me. A moment later, he started asking me things, perhaps because he was tipsy. His words flowed freely without hiding his inner thoughts. "I know your father passed away early, and your mother remarried." "Yes. I don't even know where to start. My father died when I was 13. My mother raised me until I was 14, then she remarried. After that, my grandfather raised me. But he also passed away in 89. Is there anyone else in your family?" "No, sir." "Then how did you live after that?" "I don't even know how I survived, honestly. I had no money, and even the house was taken away by my mother. At that time, I had no choice but to scavenge for bottles. Later, I started hanging out with some drifters and became a local delinquent. I even did some petty thievery at this point." Chingxi's hand under the table lightly tapped me. I was tipsy at the time, so I didn't catch what she meant. I just stared at her blankly. Unexpectedly, Chingxi tapped me again and even winked to signal me, but I still didn't get it. Right then, her father slammed his glass down on the table, then turned to Chingxi and said, "What are you doing? Are you embarrassed now? What's there to be embarrassed about? Every man makes mistakes when he's young. So what if he did some petty stealing? If you're embarrassed, then stop dating him. Tu Yi, let's drink, kid." Only then did I understand. King T was just afraid her father would misunderstand. I raised my glass and took a sip. Her father put some food in my bowl and said, "Life pushed you into that before. That situation was unavoidable. I can see your true nature is good." Chingxi already told me. "That time you hit someone and went to prison was because that man tried to harass her. You weren't wrong. You hit him well. As a man, sometimes you have to do what a man has to do." Reaching an emotional point, he raised his glass. I hurriedly raised mine in respect. He continued, "Back then you were young and impulsive. But you're older now. You have to grow up and be mature. Let me tell you, a man is the pillar of the family. Whatever you do, you must think carefully first. Look, you hit someone and went to prison. During those years behind bars, did you think about what your family would do? Of course, back then, you didn't have any family. My point is, if something like that happens again, and you go to prison, who will your family lean on?" Right. I listened, and my heart stung. I could only nod and call out, "Father," as my eyes reddened and emotion surged. He let out a soft "Aicha," then patted my shoulder, saying that everyone makes mistakes in their youth. If you're wrong, you fix it. What matters is knowing how to turn your life around. I only have this one daughter. Initially, I didn't want to marry her off so early, but she's reached the age. I think you young people should settle down soon, so that life has something to hope for. Actually, he said a lot back then, but I only remember one part forever. At that moment, Chingti pulled out some tissues to wipe my nose. I looked up at him and mumbled, "Father, I don't have any money." He suddenly slammed the table with a loud thud and stood straight up, pointing toward Chingti's room next to the living room. "If you have a lot of money, you live large. If you have little, you live simply. I dare to marry my daughter to you because I see you've gained the will to work hard. Chingxi's room is big enough. Just use it as the wedding chamber for you two. I'm not asking for a bride price, nor do I need you to handle the banquet. After the new year, go register your marriage. Now change how you address me. Let me hear you call me dad. At that moment, from the time I was small until I grew up, I had never sobbed that hard. I stood up, hugged him tightly, and wailed out, Dad. I remember being so moved that I kept stomping my feet. Afterward, I got so wasted I didn't know up from down, or where the sky and earth were. I only remember that when I woke up. It was already the next day. I was still lying on Chingxi's bed. There isn't much to tell about what happened next. After the new year, Qingxi and I really did go register our marriage. I gave up my rented room and went to the restaurant to work. On my first day, I handed out wedding candies to my colleagues and the bosses. The female boss asked me, "What's the happy occasion?" I shyly replied, "I'm married now." The bosses heard this and immediately patted my shoulder. "Getting married and you didn't invite me for a drink? Only giving out candy like this? You're not showing me any respect, huh?" I lowered my head, disappointed, and replied, "Sir, we didn't hold a ceremony. We only just registered the marriage." The female boss, running a restaurant, understood the ways of the world very well. She only let out a sigh and walked away. At that moment, my mind was a mess of 100 thoughts. I turned back to the rear to continue washing dishes. As it turned out, that night when I finished my shift, the female boss stood behind the cashier counter and called out softly. She told me to come closer. When I reached the counter, she said to me, "You're married. Now no longer a single young man. From now on, you have to support a family. Just washing dishes only earns you a few pennies. Starting tomorrow, go to the kitchen as an assistant and learn the trade. For now, I'll set your salary. And later, if you do well, I'll give you a formal raise." I heard this and my heart was filled with emotion. I hurriedly said my thanks. The female boss then stuffed an envelope into my hand. Marriage is a major life event. Someone has to congratulate you. It was so sudden that I didn't have time to prepare anything, so take this red envelope. I wish you two a life of prosperity and warmth. I looked at the red envelope with the word great fortune written on it, knowing she had just prepared it in a rush. It was truly heartwarming. "Thank you, boss. And these 2 bottles of white liquor. Take them home for your father-in-law to drink. Your father-in-law is a good man. You must be filial to him." I definitely will be. On the way home, I opened the red envelope to check. 400,000, equal to my entire month's salary. Arriving home, I gave the money to Qingqi. As soon as Qingqi saw it, she exclaimed, "How is it this much money?" The boss gave me a red envelope to congratulate our wedding. She also told me to work in the kitchen. Later on, she'll even increase my salary. Qingxi heard this and smiled at me. "See? Life will get better. From now on, you must work with all your heart for them." This morning, my mom just went to buy double joy stickers and even bought us a set of red bedding. Go in the room and look. Mom has already set it all up. I blurted out our mom, which left her in shock, looking at me. Then she leaned into my arms and laughed. "Yes, our mom." Time flew by and it was May of '99. I had become an assistant chef at the restaurant, earning over 700,000 per month every day after work. I'd even bring home a few dishes I cooked myself for a late snack. After more than a year of living together, my father-in-law and I got along like real family. Even though the neighbors called me a live-in loser, I didn't give a damn. So what if I'm a live-in son-in-law? I didn't have a home to begin with. What's wrong with finding a family for myself? That day, I finished my shift and headed home, carrying some self-cooked dishes in my hands. As soon as I entered, I saw my in-laws sitting at the dining table. They were looking at Qingqi with faces full of happiness. At that moment, I didn't quite understand what was happening. But the second I stepped through the door, everyone looked at me with radiant smiles. Her mother was even grinning from ear to ear. She gestured for me to come closer. No matter how slow I was, I knew something was up. "Can you believe it?" Mom says. "Qingqi, are you pregnant?" Her mother also nodded repeatedly to confirm it. I hurriedly asked Qingqi, "Are you really pregnant?" She nodded, her face glowing with pure happiness. I threw up several times this afternoon. Mom plans to take me to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. At that moment, no words could describe the joy inside me. I was 28 years old that year, and I felt like I had reached the peak of my life. Thinking back to 6 years ago when I had nothing, now I had a stable job, family, parents, a wife, and soon a child of my own. I truly felt that this life was perfect, full of bliss. I hope so much that the rest of my life would remain this peaceful, even if I were to become rich and powerful many years later when, looking back at the time that passed, the happiness I felt now would still be the most precious thing. But as you all know, life is full of unpredictable ups and downs. Perhaps at that time I had climbed too high, so the fall afterward was that much more painful. Looking back in detail, I've encountered 4 major life-altering events. The first was going to prison back in '93. The second was losing Qingqi in January 2000. Actually, during the New Year's holiday that year, the restaurant was slammed. For over 10 days after that, business was still booming. Usually I would finish my shift by 9 p.m. But during that period, I had to grind until 2 a.m. every single night. By the time I got home, it was 3 a.m. and after sleeping until 10 a.m., I'd have to rush right back to the restaurant to start again. While it was tough having absolutely no life, the pay was great since the restaurant was thriving, so the boss gave out bonuses every month. When I brought the money home, Chingti was shocked. Whoa, this much? I just wiped my sweat and said business has been good lately, so the bonuses are higher. If I keep this up for 2 more years, we'll be able to buy our own house. It's not as easy as you make it sound. Real estate prices are skyrocketing right now. Prices change every day at this rate. This money might not even be enough in a few years. How about I buy some supplements? For you, being pregnant is hard work. Are you 8 months along now, or is it 7? It'll be exactly 8 months in about 10 days. Your brain really can't remember anything anymore. Tomorrow, for your prenatal checkup, ask mom to take you. The restaurant is too busy for me to slip away. Our relatives in the countryside had a funeral, so mom already left this morning. It's okay, really don't worry about it. Just focus on your work. I'll see how I feel tomorrow. If it's not great, I can just go in a few days instead. I'm a bit worried. Are you really okay, though? I'm fine. Look, the belly is still doing great. As she spoke, Chingzi, who was sitting on the bed, suddenly hugged me from behind, around my waist. This is my first time I'm scared. I turned around and patted her back. I'm scared too. When the time comes, if the pain is too much to handle, we'll go with a C-section. Okay, I can't let you suffer like that. No way, I heard the neighbors say babies born by C-section aren't as smart. I want our son to be incredibly intelligent. Later, I want him to study abroad and start a big company. Okay, it will definitely be like that. Hey, why are you so good to me? You're the one who's good. You're the best person I've ever met in my life. That day was the hardest day. The worst day of my entire life. At noon, the restaurant was packed with customers. The back kitchen was incredibly busy. The boss received a phone call and rushed into the kitchen calling for me, Tuyi. Tuyi, at that moment, I was busy tossing a wok. What is it, boss? She hurriedly stopped me. Your father-in-law's office called. They said Chingti had an accident on her way to her checkup. She's in the ICU at the hospital. He said for you to get to the second floor of City Hospital immediately. I threw my ladle aside and sprinted straight out. I ran like a madman, stumbling over my own feet. But getting to the hospital didn't help. I saw my father-in-law pacing back and forth outside the operating room. I ran up and asked Dad what happened. He shook his head. I also just arrived after receiving the notice from the hospital. What on earth happened? I'm not sure. Inside the operating room, a nurse opened the door. I immediately blocked her. But she only said one thing to me, don't block me. The patient is being resuscitated. Every second right now is a life. Saying that, she rushed out and returned a few minutes later. Leading Dr. Ming, heading straight back into the operating room. I was so worried I was stomping my feet. Chingti's father was even more anxious. He clutched his chest and said, I've seen people with high blood pressure suffer a stroke, but I've never seen them call this many doctors before. What is actually going on in there? Hearing him say that made me panic even more. I quickly found a nurse stationed outside and asked, my wife is in there. Can't I go in? Doesn't the TV always show that when a wife gives birth, the husband can go in with her? The nurse told me that what's shown on TV is a normal birth, but what's happening inside now is not a birth. It is life-saving. Hearing that, my heart turned cold. Chingti, didn't she say she wasn't going for her checkup today? Why was she suddenly in the hospital like this? I and the father-in-law waited for a long time, waiting until nightfall for the door to finally open. A doctor stepped out, his expression grave. He asked, are you two the patient's family? Both of us nodded. The doctor pulled out a consent form and told us, the mother is 7 months pregnant and has a history of abortion. This fall led to hemorrhaging causing premature birth. The mother might not make it. We are doing our best to save the baby. I need one of you to sign this consent form. Hearing that, I didn't even dare step in front of the father. The mother wailed, what do you mean she can't be saved? How did things get this serious? The patient had an abortion previously, likely not performed at a proper hospital. Her current condition is extremely critical. Hearing this, the father-in-law's face turned pale with guilt. I glanced at him, but right now I had no mind for questioning. I hurriedly asked the doctor if I sign this paper. Will you guys just give up on my wife? We won't give up. As long as there's hope, we will definitely save her. I nodded. Then I'm counting on you, doctor. Doctor, if you must choose, you must keep the adult. The doctor took the consent form and stepped into the OR. An hour later, the light above the operating room turned green. The nurse called us inside. At that moment, I saw Chingti gasping for air, and I saw the newborn baby beside her. My whole body froze. Right there, I heard Chingti's voice, her voice very weak, Tui. I and her father rushed to her side, holding her hand tightly, but her eyes could no longer see me. Tuyi, I shouldn't have gone out by myself. It's all my fault. I heard everything the doctor said. The baby is a boy. In the future, I won't be able to stay. And take care of him. You must not find a stepmother for our son. You absolutely must not. I was choking on my tears, unable to speak. Finally, I managed to force out a single word, okay. My voice breaking. It's all Dad's fault. It has nothing to do with you, Dad. In the future, you must live a very peaceful life. You must live a long, healthy life. Please tell mom for me. I love her sweet and sour ribs the most. She must make that dish for her grandson. To eat, okay. My father-in-law wept uncontrollably, though usually a man of few words. I knew he was tormented by guilt. Okay, I'll listen to everything. I'll listen to you. What should Tuyi's son be named? I shook my head and said I didn't know. You're so silly, I was waiting for you to name him. You have to hang on. Let's call him Tuyun. I hope that in the future he will be both talented, capable, and wealthy. He definitely will. You must not find a stepmother for him. You must be filial to our parents. And you must always love me. I really couldn't hold it back anymore. Ching Ti, please don't leave me. As long as you stay, I'll do whatever you want, though. This time she didn't answer me. Following that was the sound of the heart monitor, drawing a long, cold, flat line. That night, I used the same pen to sign both a death certificate and a birth certificate. I registered my son's name as Xiang. A moment later, the nurse took the baby to the nursery. My father-in-law was sobbing in the morgue. I went numb for a very long time. Finally, I stood up and headed for the door. Dad, I will definitely give you an explanation for this. Seeing my murderous aura, Dad hurriedly asked where I was going. I said, I asked the nurse. They said someone pushed Ching Ti. I have to go find out who that person is. Call the police, just let the police handle it. Don't worry about this anymore, Dad. Just wait for me to give you a proper answer. After speaking, I walked away no matter how much Dad called after me. I didn't turn my head back even once. I only told him half of the truth. It's true that someone pushed Ching Ti 4 punks actually. If I reported it to the police, the punishment for those 4 wouldn't amount to much. There might not even be enough evidence to charge them. But asking me to act like nothing happened. Absolutely never. I had served 4 years in prison. While in there, I got to know plenty of guys who lived on the edge of society. I tracked down a few ex-cellmates to dig for info in the underworld. After asking around, I finally found a lead. Word was that 4 thugs who loved stripping their shirts off in broad daylight had bullied a pregnant woman in a small alley, causing her to fall and lose the baby. They had fled the scene afterward. That woman was reportedly taken away by an ambulance. I asked where they were and what their names were. They gave me the address of a bar, saying I could find them there, and wrote down the names of all 4 for me. I wandered through a small alleyway, and from someone's aluminum floor scrap, I pulled out a steel pipe. When I arrived at the entrance of the bar, I saw several bouncers standing guard at the door. I hid the steel pipe inside my sleeve and slipped inside. After entering the bar, I pulled out the piece of paper and went to the bar counter to ask the bartender. He glanced at the paper for a second, then pointed toward 4 men smoking at a table. Over there. I approached them, pulled out the paper, and read each of their names one by one. Then I asked if it was really them. One of them was still acting all arrogant. Who the hell are you? I just asked again, was it you guys? Us? Yeah, it was us. I nodded. Got the right guys, so I pulled out the steel pipe and aimed straight at the nearest one, smashing him down. That day, I went on a total rampage in the bar. Several bouncers rushed up to beat me, but right at that moment, someone stepped out and stopped them. He told them I was the husband of the deceased pregnant woman. Hearing that, those bouncers didn't actually jump in to stop me anymore. They just stood by, pretending to try and stop it. After a brief scuffle, I managed to take down all 4 of them. Finally, I aimed for their left forearms and smashed them all to pieces. I don't care which hand you used to push my wife. I'm only crushing your left hands. I'll leave the right ones so you can earn a living later. More than half the customers in the bar fled. The rest stayed to watch the drama unfold. After smashing their hands, I sat down right there to catch my breath. I understood the rules. If you mess up someone's turf, you have to face the music. Whatever the consequences, I'd take them all. But people like that, I absolutely had to beat them. You brothers didn't stop me. That's enough loyalty for me. Thank you, brothers. Saying that, I pulled out my cigarettes to offer them. The guys in the joint looked at each other hesitantly, then looked over at the man standing beside them. I followed their gaze as well. That man was likely the one calling the shots here. He looked at me and said, someone gave me a heads up tonight that you were coming. That person also told me your story. In fact, half the underworld already knows about your situation. Brother, your child is still in the hospital. The stuff here isn't damaged much. Just one broken glass table. I'll make those 4 pay for the repairs. I'll help you settle this matter smoothly. Quickly get back to the hospital to see your child. I looked at him in shock, then tilted my head, cupping my hands in a respectful salute. So much respect. Thank you. Afterward, those men came over to support me and escorted me all the way to the door. When I arrived at the hospital, Jingxi's father was sitting on the long bench outside the morgue, having fallen asleep at some point. I sat down beside him to keep watch over Qingxi together. I stayed by his side. The next day, Qingxi's mother received the news and rushed back. When I met her at the hospital, I saw her nose was bleeding and her knees were all scraped up. It seemed she had fallen on the way there. As soon as she saw us, she asked, "Where's the baby? Where's Qingxi?" The father-in-law's state had finally stabilized a bit, but being bombarded by her questions. Like that, he started sobbing uncontrollably again. After taking a few deep breaths, he told her, "It's all my fault." The doctor said it was due to complications from that old abortion. A healthy person just like that was suddenly gone. Hearing this, the mother-in-law gasped. Her eyes rolled back, and she fainted. Afterward, her blood pressure plummeted, nearly becoming life-threatening. Because of that, she had to be admitted to a hospital room. While the father-in-law was looking after her, someone knocked on our hospital room door. It was a man wearing a suit. We turned our heads to look. None of us knew this guy. The father-in-law didn't pay him much mind, but the man called out my name. "Excuse me, is Mr. Tu Yi here?" I looked back in surprise, observing the stranger closely. I had no recollection of knowing this person. "Father, maybe this person has some business with me. Please excuse me for a moment." "Do you remember what I told you when you got out of prison?" I nodded. "I remember, sir. Now that I'm a family man, I'll be careful in everything I do." At the small park outside the hospital, the suited man introduced himself. "I'm Liu Ben. The underworld calls me Brother Liu. The 4 guys you beat up are my subordinates." I lowered my head. "I've heard of your name since I was inside. Your territory is vast, and you've got businesses in every sector. Did you come here to get justice for them?" "Little brother, you've misunderstood. If you say the word, I'll help you take out their remaining arms too." "That's not necessary. Let them keep their right hand so they can still hold a rice bowl." I'm fully aware of the details of this situation. "I know it's because I didn't train my boys well. Regarding your wife's matter, I've wronged you. Here is 10 million NDT. I know this amount is definitely not enough, but take it for now as a small token of my sincerity." I was beyond shocked that a big boss with businesses all over the city would humble himself to give me money. I didn't accept it because I felt that if I did, then this whole situation would no longer hold its original meaning. Brother Liu shoved the money into my hand and said, "Little brother, I've looked into you. My men all say you have a lot of grit and that you're a good man. Moreover, you took on 4 by yourself. 1 yet only disabled their left hands. Without taking their lives, that's truly honorable. Society nowadays is lacking people with a sense of righteousness like yours. I know you have a family now, and the cost of raising a child isn't small. I sincerely want to invite you to work for me. I absolutely won't let you be mistreated." I looked at the 10 million Vietnamese dong and shook my head. "Thank you, Brother Liu, but I feel too ashamed to even stand before you. I can't come work for you. I'm a chef now. This kind of life is good enough for me. Besides, my wife in heaven probably wouldn't want to see me involved in the underworld ever again." After hearing that, Brother Liu nodded. "All right, it's fine, brother. Here's my business card. If you ever need anything, come find me here. Just give them your name, and you'll definitely get through to me. Whatever I can settle, I definitely will help with." He handed me a business card. I took it and whispered my thanks. After he left, I looked at the card and thought to myself I'd probably never need it. Then I took the money back to the hospital room. Afterward, my wife was cremated. Once the death certificate was processed, the mother-in-law was discharged. The child, though born prematurely, thankfully has a very healthy constitution. The hospital also gave us the green light to take him home. Returning home the moment we pushed the door open and saw the room I shared with Ching-Ti next to the living room, everyone burst into tears. As the adults wept, little Tu-Yoon started crying right along with us. But what else could we do? Life just had to keep moving forward. That night, the baby slept with my in-laws. I sat alone, staring blankly by the head of the bed. The moon was perfectly round that night. I took out Ching-Ti's clothes. Quietly folding each piece, I took out the gloves and the wool scarf that Ching-Ti had knitted for me and put them on. I thought about the time she'd put medicated patches on my back. For me. I thought about when she was pregnant. Always so nauseous she could barely eat anything. I thought about the times I was exhausted to the point of collapse. Slumping into her lap like a child, I just sat there blankly on her side of the bed, sitting all night long like a fool. I still couldn't accept this reality. She was gone. Looking back at the bed, nothing was left and my heart tightened in pain. Before I didn't understand what it felt like to miss someone so much it hurts. Now I truly feel this gut-wrenching agony. There were nights I burst into tears several times. I still couldn't bear the thought of a life without Ching-Ti. The new year of 2000 was the hardest time. Back when Ching-Ti was pregnant, she had knitted several sets of clothes, shoes, and wool hats for the baby. During that new year, our son wore them all. I carried him to stand before Ching-Ti's portrait. "Wife, look, our son's eyes really look just like yours." As I said those words, my heart ached terribly. I could even hear the sound of her mother, sobbing while wiping away her tears. But I still had to tell my wife. From now on, I'll tell her every single year. I can't let her worry about our son from up in heaven. And so the days gradually passed. That evening, I came home from work to find my father-in-law sitting alone drinking his sorrows. Away at the table, luckily I had bought some snacks to bring back. I approached the dining table, and he called me over to sit with him. Once I had sat down, he pulled out a savings book. My eyes widened in shock. He waved his hand at me, signaling for me not to speak yet. My father-in-law said, "Son-in-law, in 2 years I'll be retiring. We 2 old souls have always had the habit of saving up. Initially, we saved this for our son, but he unfortunately passed away in an accident. After that, we wanted to save this fund for our daughter. Now that our daughter is gone too and we are old and weak, we can't manage much else. You're a man, and now you're a father. You have to shoulder the responsibility. I'm giving this money to you now. Whether it's to start a business or to keep it in savings, I'll support you. I looked at the figure in the savings book in shock. To me, it was truly an astronomical amount. Dad, you and Mom should keep this for your old age. He took a sip of wine and gave me a thumbs up. You're that kind of person. From the moment you got out of prison until now, you've truly been a very good kid. I already consider you my own biological son. Do you know that? I nodded. I know, Dad. Money is just a worldly possession. You can't bring it with you when you're born, nor take it with you when you die. Leaving it for our son is the right thing to do. At this point, my mother-in-law also walked over. Just listen to your father. We're all one family. Don't be so formal about who gains or loses. After saying that, she shoved the savings book into my hand. Once again, I was stunned into silence. Finally, I understood why Qingxi was such an understanding person. She really was raised in a very good family. My nose turned red from embarrassment. Thank you, Mom and Dad. I will definitely be filial to both of you. I resigned from my job at the restaurant. On the day I left, the lady boss wiped her tears and said, God really is blind. Why does he keep targeting good people like this? If you have any trouble in the future, remember to come find me. I'll definitely give you a hand. I could only choke out my thanks. Afterward, I used the money my father-in-law gave me, along with the money Brother Liu had given me before, and combined them to open a small eatery. I sold things like noodles, dumplings, and set meals. The sign read, Zhu Family Eatery. The place wasn't very big with only about a dozen seats. I managed everything by myself. The daily net profit was about 80,000 Vietnamese dong. Don't look down on this 80,000. Back in 2000, a manual laborer at a construction site only made 30,000 a day. Doing it alone, I made as much as 2 people combined. It was quite a decent living. Adding it all up, I was pulling in about 2,500,000 a month, triple my previous salary as a chef. At this rate, I was going to save up a pretty significant amount. After about 7 or 8 months in business, thanks to generous portions and honest cooking, the business became more and more prosperous. Now I was earning over 3 million Vietnamese dong a month. Back then, I was working with serious hustle. It was September 2000, when the third tragedy struck. Back in 93, there was a man whose kidney I had ruptured that night. 7 years had passed, and I crossed paths with him once again. I remembered his name was Song Ren Dao. He looked visibly older and had gained a lot of weight. His head was shaved bald. That day, he swaggered into the shop, glanced at the menu, and ordered a bowl of the house specialty wontons. At first, I didn't recognize him. It wasn't until I brought the bowl out that he recognized me. Hey, you look familiar. Only then did I realize who it was. But I just lowered my head and didn't reply. When running a shop, the most important thing is that harmony breeds wealth. I couldn't cause trouble. It has been a long time. These wontons. Eat them while they're hot. They're my shop's best dish. Oh, I'm terrified of them being too hot. Of all the places in this big city, I had to run into you. Because of you, I had to have a kidney removed. You think a simple apology is enough to settle this? Do you have any idea what it feels like to live with only one kidney? Every few weeks, my back flares up with agonizing pain. It's all your fault, no? It was my mistake. But I already served 4 years in prison. Haven't we already settled our debt to each other? Psh, in your dreams. He swiped his hand, flipping the bowl to the floor where it shattered. Then he pointed at my shop and barked. Now that I've caught you, if I let you keep the shop open, I'll stop using the name Song. After saying that, he swaggered away. The next morning, I opened the shop early. While the breakfast crowd was eating, everything was still fine. But toward noon, I saw that guy, Song, leading a gang of people to occupy my entire shop. They brought decks of cards and started gambling right there. Whenever they saw a customer about to enter, they'd shout and chase them away. I stood in my small kitchen, temporarily at a loss for what to do, so I just kept my head down and continued wrapping dumplings. But throughout the entire afternoon, Song and his crew just sat there playing cards for hours on end, absolutely having no intention of leaving. I intended to call the police. But back then, I didn't have a mobile phone and there was no landline installed in the shop. I could only stand there, frozen in the kitchen. I figured if they saw I wasn't reacting, they'd eventually get bored and leave on their own. But the next day, they arrived even earlier. They were there by 8 a.m. They brought 2 crates of beer melon seeds peanuts and a whole lot of audacity. They brazenly turned my eatery into a gambling den. That day, as expected, they stayed to gamble all day long, only agreeing to leave at 9 p.m. I didn't dare tell my father-in-law about this. I was afraid he'd get worried and fall ill, so I could only endure it and wait for Song's anger to cool. I hoped that this matter would eventually pass. However, for over 10 days straight, Song haunted the shop every single day. I found it strange. Don't these guys need to work or earn a living? Later, after asking friends, I found out. That Song was actually a legit wealthy playboy. His family had money and quite a few relatives in high places. From the start, he was a spoiled rich kid who never had to worry about food or clothes. Hearing that, I felt completely hopeless. I knew I could never compete with someone like him. So I reported it to the police early on, hoping that when the police arrived the next day, they'd kick them out. The next day, the police actually did show up. After giving them a stern lecture, Rendao just grinned and led his gang away. But as soon as the police left, Rendao somehow managed to lead that same gang back out from wherever they were hiding. Rendao pointed straight at my face and said, "Kid, calling the police is useless. We haven't even done anything, even if you call. The cops, they can't do a damn thing to us." At that moment, I realized you don't fear a villain's evil. You fear a villain who is evil and knows the law. I hated myself for not being well educated. If I had more knowledge, I would have wanted to be a good man who understood the law. I looked at the ledger, this shop including ingredients, and rent was losing 6 million Vietnamese dong a month. I just wanted to curse and shut down the shop for good, but if I closed up and the in-laws asked about it, how would I explain it to them? Could I really say Rendao was ruining me? They are both such upright people. If a conflict broke out, what would happen then? A person like Rendao is someone you absolutely cannot afford to cross. The in-laws' health wasn't great. If something happened to them because of this, how could I face Ching Tzi? After thinking it over, I decided to fake being sick for a few days. I thought maybe if I kept the shop closed for a while, Song Rendao would see I wasn't opening, and perhaps forget about me. But I was wrong. While I was lying in bed, there was a knock at the door. Mother-in-law holding Tuyun went to open it. Immediately, that arrogant voice rang out. "Is that Tu guy the eatery owner home? Why isn't the shop open today?" Thinking he was just a customer, she smiled and said her son-in-law was sick. I rushed out from the back. "Song Rendao, what are you trying to do?" Song Rendao looked at me. "This looks like sick to you. Why aren't you opening shop?" I didn't dare say I wouldn't open. I put on my shoes to get ready. "I'm opening right now. What do you want to eat?" "I'll go make it for you." Song Rendao looked smug. "Ah, that's more like it. If I don't spend a day sitting in your shop, I feel restless all over. Oh, my son-in-law's skills are top-notch. Everything he cooks is delicious. I should also thank you for looking out for my family." I forced a smile at my mother-in-law and then closed the door. I glared at Song Rendao. "What exactly do you want?" "I don't want anything in particular. I just want to watch you lose money. You have to open the shop every day. Miss one day and I'll come straight to your house. Trapped with no way out like this. I really couldn't hold on anymore, losing 6 million Vietnamese dong every month. If I went to find another job outside, it's not even certain I'd earn 6,000 and half a year. No matter how much you pay me in compensation, it won't make up for these 7 or 8 years of my hardship." "Then what do you want though?" "Pay me back with a kidney. I've checked. Our blood types don't match. If this kidney could be transplanted, I would have ripped it out long ago." After saying that, the brute gave a cold snort and turned to leave. And so I was forced to keep the shop open. That afternoon, the brute lost quite a bit of money gambling. In a fit of rage, he flipped 3 tables and chased all the customers away. The shop was a total mess with tables and chairs overturned everywhere. I sat in the kitchen, not even bothering to care, feeling like my chest was on fire. Once the rest of the gang had left, the brute stayed alone in the shop to ward off customers. But actually for over a month now, no one had bothered to drop by my shop anymore. So normally there weren't any customers anyway. Maybe because he was bored. He shouted toward the kitchen. "Was that old lady the other day your mother-in-law?" I remained silent. "I see you have a kid, but where's your wife? How come I haven't seen her face all this time?" I still didn't reply. The brute barked out in annoyance. "I'm talking to you. I already know your wife is dead. I saw the funeral photo when I went to your house. Talk about a cursed fate. Let me tell you something. It's because you have the kind of fate that kills your wife. You basically cursed her to death, didn't you?" I couldn't listen to another word. Fury made me lose all reason. I grabbed a piece of wood and threw it straight at his head. Taking the hit, he realized I was serious. He hurriedly scrambled outside. He just kept running, while I chased after him without letting up. The rage suppressed for over a month had finally exploded at this very moment. He ran for his life for a long distance, then flagged down a taxi and scrambled inside. I stood there frozen in place, watching the car drive away as he stuck his head out the window and screamed back at me. "Tu Yi, you just wait. I'm going to the police right now. This time I'm sending you back to the slammer. Let's see how many years you get this time." Hearing those words, I suddenly snapped back to my senses. I collapsed to the ground, overcome with regret. If I got locked up again this time, it would probably be another 10 or 15 years without seeing my son, unable to care for my elderly parents. How could I ever face Ching Ti again? I was filled with deep regret. But by then, it was already too late. I suddenly remembered the hospital, the business card Big Brother Liu had given me. He said if anything happened, I should come find him. So I rushed back home, found that card in a drawer, and took a car to the KTV address written on it. I walked inside and told the manager my name was Tu Yi. The manager led me to a massive office. Big Brother Liu was a bit surprised to see me. He asked what was going on. I told him everything that had happened recently, recounting every detail. After hearing it, Boss Liu didn't seem bothered at all. He just patted my shoulder and said he'd handle it. Right then, he made a phone call. The person on the other end seemed to be a relative of that Song Rendao guy. With just a few brief sentences, the call ended. Boss Liu told me everything was settled. I was stunned. It's really over, just like that. Boss Liu nodded. It's done. Go home and don't worry. The police won't come looking for you. And that song? Rendao won't dare set foot near your shop ever again. How did you do that so easily? Song Rendao's. Big Boss owes me a favor from back in the day. Besides, his boss has heard about your story too. He respects you a lot. So he's already taught Song Rendao a lesson on your behalf. Hearing this, it still felt like a dream. Just one phone call and I didn't have to go to prison anymore while I was lost in thought. Boss Liu tried to recruit me once again. Listen, brother, I truly value someone like you. You know how to do business and you're loyal to a fault. A man like you is worthy of being my sworn brother. But I turned down his invitation once more. Come work with me. I won't let you down. I'm sorry, Brother Liu, but my wife is gone. Only my in-laws and the little one are left. I'm the only pillar of support in the house. I can't afford to take any more risks. Boss Liu nodded in understanding. It's fine. Helping you this time was just a small matter. It doesn't even make up for what your wife did. In the future, if anything happens, just come to me. I'll still help you out. After thanking him again, I returned home. By the second day, the police still hadn't come to the house. The two elders had no idea what had happened to me. I thought the storm had passed, but the reality was quite different. After that, I stayed open all day, but had 0 customers. I thought I'd just lost my regulars and things would normalize in a few days, but as the days went by, the situation didn't get any better. I went to ask the neighboring shop owners, only to find out that what happened that day had already become gossip all over the neighborhood. Then, some people started digging into my background and discovered I had been to prison for assault. Now that everyone knew about my criminal record, no one dared to come to my shop to eat anymore. Everyone thought a shop opened by an ex-con must surely be a shady business. I was speechless, only able to silently keep the doors open every day. But every single day, it was completely deserted. Days like that dragged on for a while, until I finally had to face the reality this shop couldn't stay open any longer. Without consulting the family, I decided to close the shop and quietly went to find the lady boss of my old restaurant. Ma'am, is your place still hiring? But the lady boss said, I really want to help you, but if I take you in, no one will come to eat at my shop anymore. She only said that much. She was a good person, who once didn't look down on an ex-con. Like me, it was I who had tarnished my own reputation. In the end, I could only silently leave. After returning home, I told the whole story to my father-in-law and mother-in-law. After hearing it, both of them were stunned. My father-in-law was so angry he slammed the table. How can such people exist in this world? I shook. My head returned the savings book to him and said, the shop can't stay open anymore. The money I earned before is all gone. Even the money in the book is short by a few million. Give me some time, and I'll go out to see if there's any work I can do. If all else fails, I'll go to a construction site to haul sacks. Father-in-law thought for a long time before taking the book. Let's do this tomorrow. I'll go to the factory to beg the leaders for a favor, to see if they can arrange some kind of job for you. That was the only way left. Father-in-law relied on his connections at the factory and told me to go for an interview. During the interview, the person in charge asked a few questions. My answers weren't very good, but afterward, father-in-law acted like he didn't have a care in the world. On the way back, he told me not to worry, saying that it was a 90% certainty. Seeing him so confident, I felt at ease and waited for news at home. A few days later, the factory called. I thought it was an announcement that I'd been hired, but on the other end was a piece of devastating news. Father-in-law had suffered a stroke and had been rushed to the hospital. For emergency care, mother-in-law and I hurried to the hospital with the little one, seeing father-in-law lying on the hospital bed with his mouth completely twisted. I hurriedly asked what exactly had happened at the factory. It's still about your situation. Master Lee, to secure the job for you, had already bribed the factory management with 20 million. That job was supposed to be a 100% sure thing. But on the day of the interview, the deputy director happened to see you. I don't understand. What do I have to do with him a connection? You and him truly have no connection, but you and his nephew certainly do. Our factory's deputy director is surnamed Song. His nephew is none other than Song Rendao. The deputy director forced the board to strike your name, and he even had them fire Master Lee as well. Master Lee, because of this, went to the management to demand justice. As a result, during the argument, he suffered a stroke. Song Rendao again, it's that damn bastard again. Why does he keep haunting me like this? I intended to go find him and settle the score once and for all. But before I could even step foot out of the hospital room, my father-in-law mid-stroke used his slurred and distorted voice to call out to his son-in-law. That cry for son-in-law made me freeze in my tracks. I understood my father-in-law's intent. I'm a father now. I can't keep causing trouble. I bowed my head and returned to the bedside. Father, I understand I'm coming back. I can't mess with that Song Rendao guy anymore. I just hope he lets me go from now on. I really can't afford to offend him. Song Rendao's influence was truly terrifying. His older brother is a local mob boss. His uncle is the factory's deputy director. Who knows what other big shots are in his family. I used to think powerful clans were just a product of the old days, that in the modern era, everyone was a commoner and equal. Turns out it was my lack of education that misled me. Those powerful families still exist naturally. It's just that everything has become different from what I once knew. Putting those immediate problems aside, mother-in-law had to help me look after the little one, while also caring for father-in-law. The burden of earning money now fell entirely on my shoulders. I needed a job. But where could I find one with a salary enough to cover expenses, where they did actually hire a guy like me? Thinking it over, at this point only Brother Liu was willing to help me, calling the 2 times I rejected him before. I couldn't help but feel ridiculous. Turns out, having no other choice is also a choice in itself. That night, despite being visibly nervous, I took a gamble and spoke to Brother Liu. I need money. Right now. The whole family is counting on me to bring in the cash. I know that under your wing there are many businesses. Find me a job that pays well. No matter how difficult or how much trouble comes my way, I'll definitely handle it all for you. In the end, Brother Liu let me help him manage a card room over 80 square meters. I reported this back to the family, but they didn't want me working there. Father-in-law even cried at the time. He was so frustrated by the situation that he kept making sounds of disapproval. But I was truly at the end of my rope. I knelt down before his hospital bed and kowtowed. Father, please trust me this once. I must be the one to carry this family. Being human is so hard, I wiped away my tears. It really is tough. Father-in-law's stroke condition couldn't be cured overnight. On top of that, the kid was still too small. Children get sick so easily, and hospital bills for them cost even more than for adults. Half a year later, I was managing the mahjong parlor quite well and leading a team of 5 employees. The business had no bad debts. All the money sent out was recovered. But the only issue was the revenue of the mahjong parlor. It wasn't as high as when the previous manager was here. I thought this would make Brother Liu dissatisfied. But later, when dividing territories, Brother Liu gave me 2 more mahjong parlors and a bar. I found it very strange and didn't understand why. Then Brother Liu gave me a long lecture on his philosophy. It was only then that I realized just how huge the gap between me and Brother Liu was. If I ever have the chance to enter the business world later, I must definitely learn from him. In 2004, I had been working under Brother Liu for 3 years. I had taken over all of his legitimate business properties. He trusted me immensely, even going as far as transferring the ownership of these businesses to my name. My savings had long since surpassed the billion mark. But no matter who I was on the outside, when I came home, I was still the son-in-law to the elders and the father to my child. My father-in-law recovered last year. He's now at home with my mother-in-law taking care of the little one. I moved the family into a high-end 200 square meter apartment. The interior and everything else was brand new, especially the color TV. Knowing my father-in-law loved watching TV, I specifically bought a 72-inch model and even hired a maid to help with the housework. Whenever I came home and had free time, I'd head to the kitchen to cook for the 2 elders, hoping the 2 of them could enjoy a peaceful old age. My son is already 3 years old now. Lately, I've been looking for a kindergarten for him. With life passing by peacefully like this, I wonder if it's enough for me to face Qingxi. In September of that year, the city suddenly launched a massive crackdown on crime and corruption. Since the businesses under my hand were all clean, I didn't end up in their crosshairs. Brother Liu, on the other hand, was arrested and detained because of his underground dealings. In March 2005, he was sentenced to 18 years in prison. At that time, I used many connections to send a message to him inside Brother Liu. The properties on my side are all still doing well. When you get out, all of this will be yours. At that moment, I truly meant it. However, I never got to see the day Big Brother was released. In July 2005, news came from the inside. Brother Liu had been beaten to death in prison, but because there were 11 other people in the same cell and no one admitted to doing it, the prison authorities couldn't figure out who the killer was. In the end, they could only discipline everyone in that cell and close the case. Abruptly, when I heard the news, I was completely stunned. I looked for someone to dig for info. An old acquaintance told me that Brother Liu had been moved to a different cell. Once, it seemed someone had used money to grease the wheels. I felt that this matter was not simple at all. Without thinking twice, I took a sum of money and gave it to a contact in the district to investigate. I had to get to the bottom of this, no matter what. The contact expressed his concerns to me. Even if we keep digging, there's no guarantee of a result. And even if we do find something, are you sure you're strong enough to touch the opposition? Just investigate first, we'll worry about that later. Just investigate first, we'll worry about that later. After taking the money, the district contacts started going around. To gather intel, Brother Liu was a man of great loyalty, but he didn't have a small number of enemies either. I didn't know who had killed him, and it seemed impossible to find out. Recalling everything Brother Liu had done for me, I knew I had to repay him, easier said than done. But this case was not easy to track. Maybe continuing to dig would lead nowhere. Therefore, I asked myself, is there anything else I can do for him? Brother Liu didn't have many relatives. After asking around everywhere, I finally learned that Brother Liu still had a younger brother named Liu Feng. A few years ago, he got into trouble and went to prison. He was due to be released very soon. To repay Brother Liu's kindness, I decided I would take good care of his brother in his stead. On the day Liu Feng was released, I brought my men to pick him up. Afterward, I recounted everything that had happened recently to him. While still inside the facility, Liu Feng already knew the news of his brother's passing. At this moment, he didn't expect that I would still be here. I told Liu Feng that I could hand over all the businesses for him to manage. But Liu Feng used the excuse of not knowing how to do business to refuse. Besides, he had just gotten out of prison and didn't have much need for spending. So I bought Liu Feng a house so he could settle down with a place to live first. Then Liu Feng saw my car and said he wanted to be my driver. At that time, I didn't have the heart for it. He was Brother Liu's younger brother. How could I let him drive for me? But Liu Feng said if he just sat around enjoying the perks, people would eventually look down on him. If I'm going to follow you, I have to find something to do. He had a point. So Liu Feng became my driver from then on. I continued to run those relatively legal business sectors. Perhaps Brother Liu's death dealt a significant psychological blow to me. Now everyone I looked at seemed like a bad person. Once the peak period of the crime and corruption crackdown passed, I began reorganizing my staff and expanding the business. This time, I didn't just stick to the clean sectors. I dipped my hands into the dirty ones as well. The properties previously owned by Brother Liu that were sealed off, I would slowly rebuild them all. Thus, whenever strong measures were required, Liu Feng handled it all personally. I didn't let my family know about any of this. It's just that over the past few years, I realized I was becoming increasingly reckless, and my methods were no longer what they used to be. But when I looked back and asked myself if I was wrong, deep down in my heart, I felt I had done nothing wrong at all. Just as Brother Liu told me that day, making money, there's nothing lowly about it. Now I wasn't just providing food and clothing for one family, but also carrying the lives of hundreds of brothers under my wing. By 2007, I held the business empire of both central city districts. It was at this very moment that I felt the storm beginning to brew. The higher ups seemed to be launching a clean sweep campaign with a heavy hand. If I kept going like this, it probably wouldn't be long before I followed in those old footsteps again. Of course, more importantly, my son was now 7 years old. He was starting to understand things. I was scared that one day he'd find out what kind of man his father was. I didn't want to teach my son to become someone like me, so I decided to go straight and clean up my act. At that time, real estate was the hottest growing industry, and also a field with a relatively low barrier to entry. I started selling off the businesses under my name to accumulate cash, preparing for a fresh start. By late 2007, despite preparing a massive amount of capital, because of my lack of education, venturing into a completely new field made me act extremely cautious. Yesterday, while bidding, I received a contract. As it turned out, when I had a lawyer check it, I discovered there were over a dozen loopholes and traps inside. Those people clearly looked down on me for being uneducated. I suddenly remembered that person from years ago. I truly wanted to become someone like him, possessing the tactics and a deep understanding of the rules. There's probably no chance left for me in this lifetime. I was never a man of letters, so I wanted to find someone who could help me manage the work, but finding someone who understands the law and shares the same vision is just too difficult. Until later on, I heard a manager recount that at a bar in Ningxia there was such a person. So I hurried to that bar to meet the man named Shu Bin. He didn't look like a refined intellectual at all. I casually tossed him a copy of that previous contract, asking him to see if there were any issues. I patiently waited for him for half an hour, and reality proved that the wait was completely worth it. The points he pointed out were identical to what the professional lawyers had stated. Just that alone was enough for me to know this was the person I was looking for. I recruited him to be my secretary, to help me handle contract-related matter. The preparations were mostly done. I officially stepped into the real estate industry. At first, I thought this profession was very clean, but after being in the game for a while, I saw it wasn't nearly as pure as I imagined. In this real estate world, I've crossed paths again with many old acquaintances from the underworld. The tactics they use can only be described as utterly ruthless. Trying to snatch a piece of the pie from their mouths is honestly harder than climbing to heaven. But once I sold off every asset to consolidate capital, I couldn't just let this money sit dead in my hands. So I handed the land acquisition task over to Liu Feng. I told Liu Feng that as long as he didn't get caught, he should just go ahead and do his thing. Afterward, Liu Feng completed the mission excellently, thanks to the support of Liu Feng and Shubin. I monopolized many valuable plots of land. Business thrived more every day, and by 2009, I had made a massive fortune. The first thing I did was build a private headquarters for the company. I named the company T-Yun Group. After the group's building was completed in 2010, sitting in the chairman's office, my mood was quite good at first. After all, I finally had my own building. But bad news kept piling up, making me extremely frustrated. During that time, my various underlings reported almost zero good news. Several real estate projects under the T-Yun Group name, after officially breaking ground for development, were repeatedly ordered by the authorities to halt construction and faced heavy fines. After that, we sent people to reapply for construction permits. The licensing staff suddenly changed their attitude, directly pushing the standards to the highest level, forcing the company's staff to go back and forth dozens of times without being able to secure the permits. At first, I found it strange. Clearly, each project had already budgeted a lobbying fund to grease the wheels. Why were there still so many complicated troubles? I called Liu Feng in and told him to investigate what the specific cause was. Afterward, Liu Feng invited the staff members who frequently harassed the construction sites to a meal, only then learning that their department had just had a new leader transferred in. He was specifically in charge of this sector, but this leader acted as if he had a personal vendetta against T-Yun Group, always having underlings keep a close watch. After learning this, I told Liu Feng to go gather more intel on this newly transferred leader, and guess what the result was? That leader's name is Song Danming, another relative of that bastard Song Rendao. This damn Song guy. Just how many deities does he have backing him up to keep messing with me like this? I went ballistic, screaming at Liu Feng, go investigate for me. Dig up every single relative that Song bastard has. His father's side, his mother's side. Don't miss a single soul, track them all down for me. I want to see what kind of formidable hidden clan his family really is. Liu Feng didn't say anything at first after hearing that, but handed me a photo and a letter. I glanced at the photo. It was a grave. In front was a tombstone with a name carved on it. It was the very person I had trusted and tasked 2 years ago. I hurriedly opened the letter and read the contents carefully. Mr. Sai, 2 years ago, you asked my husband to investigate something. He found the answer, but he was afraid that if he told you then, the enemy would follow the trail back to him. So he planned to wait 2 years to tell you the truth. But somehow the enemy found out he was being investigated. He actually hired an old man to drive drunk and ram into my husband, killing him. That drunk driver was ultimately only sentenced to 2 years. I can only plead with you now. After that man is released from prison, could you make him disappear? I beg of you. Reading this, my mind was filled with doubts, which Liu Feng then answered. This was written by the wife of that contact in the district. You asked him to investigate my brother's death. He found out, but fearing retribution, he planned to tell you in a few years. So who exactly was the one who killed your brother? It was Song Rendao, the one who used to have beef with you. My brother stood up to protect you, so he always held a grudge in his heart. Since then, he was always looking for a chance to frame my brother. That time, my brother was sentenced to prison. It was because he snitched on my brother's territory after my brother was behind bars. It was also him who planted people in a cell and used money to bribe connections to transfer my brother into that exact same cell. That's how my brother died. Hearing this, my mind was a bit of a mess. I covered my eyes with my hand and pondered for a long time. Maybe people like Song Rendao, once they hate someone, they'll haunt them for life. He has cursed my life for 17 years already. A whole 17 years? How is that still not enough? I took a deep breath, leaned back in my chair and asked Liu Feng, do you know who the guy was that killed your brother in that cell, say? I do. It's the same guy who drove drunk and killed my current lover. Which prison is he in? Do you know the date he's getting out? Yes. Do you know where that guy lives? I do. Good. You handle it then. That day I put on a new suit and even got a new haircut to make myself look more like a successful businessman. Then I grabbed the 5-centimeter thick bid dossier on the desk and prepared to go find Song Danming. I practically strode confidently right up to his office door. I pushed the door open and casually closed it behind me. Song Danming glanced at me. Who are you? I smiled at him. The noble-minded often forget. Not long ago, you sent people to suspend our group's project. Song Danming's expression remained as calm as ever. He even opened his thermos, took a sip of hot tea, and then said, so you're Chi Yi. I nodded and casually sat down in front of him, quietly, placing the dossier in my hand down before him. He looked at the 2 words, bid dossier, and broke into a disdainful smile. There's nothing here that needs bidding. Don't say that, sir. Just open it and take a look first. He flipped to the first page, and his expression instantly shifted. The first page recorded all of his family's information, from addresses, ages, and birth dates. to jobs and schools. The way he looked at me suddenly lost that relaxed vibe from earlier. Wait, sir. Flip to the next page. He bowed his head and flipped to the second page. The text on this page was smaller than the previous one because there was much more content to record. The things listed on this page revolved around information on relatives within 3 generations of Song Rendao. I had specifically had someone highlight in yellow the careers of those with high status in his family. Some were business owners, some were officials, some taught at universities, and some were developing their careers abroad. A family background of this scale is truly not on the same level as a family like mine. The third page is also worth a look. At that moment, footsteps echoed in the hallway. He was as terrified as a bird startled by a bow. Hurriedly trying to fold the dossier shut, I stood up and held his hand, helping him flip to the third page. On this page were recorded the things Song Rendao had done over the years. Petty traps made up the majority. But there were also a few major incidents, deceiving the feelings of gullible young girls, which were later spun into consensual affairs, falsely accusing others of crimes leading to many being punished. Just pulling out a few things at random was enough to see how trash he was. Song Daming was clearly panicking. I pressed my advantage. The Song family, you guys are a prestigious clan. Whether it's the previous generation or this one, everyone is very successful. And yet a guy like Song Rendao pops up. This might sound a bit harsh, but he really is the black sheep of the family. Song Danming took a deep breath, still trying to force himself to stay calm. What exactly do you want? Please keep flipping, uncle. He flipped through a few more pages, but they were all blank. So he looked at me with full suspicion. I signaled with my hand, gesturing for him to keep flipping. After flipping through dozens more pages, he discovered that in the middle of this dossier, some pages were hollowed out. Inside those hollows were 4 gold bars, 100 grams each. Song Danming's expression shifted once again. He was clearly confused. What exactly do you mean by this? I took out my phone and dialed Liu Feng's number, then handed the phone to Song Danming. He pressed the phone to his ear. From the other end came Liu Feng's voice. Here. Speak. Immediately after the voice changed to Song Rendao's, he cried, save me, save me. They've locked me up for days. Save me. Song Danming's face instantly turned pale. Song Rendao, what's wrong? Where are you? I waved my hand at Song Danming. Song Danming realized he was speaking too loudly. CE, what exactly do you want to do? I said nothing. Just pushed that specially prepared bid dossier a little further toward him. Sir, Song Rendao and I have known each other since '93. Back then, he tried to grope my wife. I was young and reckless then, so I wrecked one of his kidneys. Afterward, I served 4 years in prison. The debt was considered paid. But in the 3rd year after my release, I opened a small shop. Because of him, my business was ruined, making it impossible for me to keep the shop open. My bad reputation spread far and wide from that point. Afterward, I closed the shop intending to work for someone else, but no place in that entire region dared to hire me. Later, my father-in-law took all his savings to plead with his factory leaders, hoping they could arrange a job for me. As it turned out, we ran right into Song Rendao, his uncle, the deputy factory director. Your second older brother, bluntly, refused me and even fired my father-in-law. It caused my father-in-law so much distress that he had a stroke and had to be rushed to the ER. At that time, I had elders to support and a child to raise. Not a single cent in my pocket and no job to be found. He was the one who forced me to have no other choice but to walk down this path. When the crime crackdown came, to target me, he sent my big bro to prison and even planted someone in there, making my big bro disappear in a single morning. Even up until now, I've struggled so hard to build such a large company, yet he seeks you out to harm me once again, naturally. I know there's no friction between me and you, sir. It's certain that Song Rendao begged you to step in. You, out of respect for the family ties, and unable to stand his persistent pestering, casually lent a hand to push me into this desperate situation. That's why I locked him up just for a few days while I found someone to collect this info. But sir, look and see who's right and who's wrong. This Song Rendao holds a grudge for too long. It's honestly terrifying. He has stalked me for 17 long years. How can a human being use that much time to constantly seek revenge against someone else? Isn't that scary? If it were you, could you endure it? I personally can't take it anymore. Today, I came to you because I want to discuss a partnership. I know the Song family is wealthy and wouldn't care about my small shop. But the way I see it, that guy, Song Rendao, is only worth so much. The Song family has so many elite and outstanding descendants. Yet a beast like him managed to crawl out. If you all continue to indulge him, sooner or later he'll drag this whole family down. You've seen it yourself. This Song Rendao over all these years has done so many despicable things. If this gets leaked out, what will the Song family do then right now? I want to give you a choice. A friend who can be a long-term partner, or a relative who ruins the family reputation. Which side do you choose? Song Danming fell silent for a long time, speechless. He put on the contemplative, calculating look of a leader. I told him that regardless of which side he chose, I'll support it. If you choose your relative, I'll immediately have my people release Song Rendao. But in exchange, the safety of everyone else in the Song family, as well as the many secrets of this clan, well, I can't guarantee those. But if you choose to befriending me, I'll definitely repay you well in the future. From now on, I'll do whatever you say. As for Song Rendao disappearing, whether he vanishes or not, I'll leave that decision to you. Song Danming was drenched in sweat, seemingly in the middle of a fierce psychological struggle. Rendao is my eldest brother's son. Don't worry, sir. Heaven knows, earth knows, only you and I know. Just act as if Song Rendao has gone missing. Your brother won't be able to trace it. This brother of mine is a professional. You can choose with peace of mind. He looked down at the gold bars and the documents on the desk, took a deep breath. The restructuring of Siyun Group is very well done. I need to take the specific plan back for more research. I hope we can have a long-term partnership in the future. I smiled, nodded, and turned on the phone speaker, saying to Liu Feng on the other end, "Did you hear that? The leader has spoken." Immediately after, from the other end of the line, the sound of someone struggling and pleading erupted. The sound lasted for a few minutes, then went dead silent. Only then did the call disconnect. "Thank you for the support, sir." After saying that, I strolled away. In the years after Song Rendao disappeared, things went very smoothly for me. After all, I held a recording of Song Danming agreeing to let me eliminate Song Rendao. From that point on, the two of us were grasshoppers tied to the same string, exploiting each other. Neither could shake the other off. With him always giving me the green light along the way, how could it not be smooth sailing? Over a decade later, my industries spanned the entire country, with assets worth hundreds of trillions of Vietnamese dong. Right as my career reached its peak, I transferred all my assets to Liu Feng, leaving only a portion for my parents-in-law. And my son Si. Yun is also very ambitious. After returning from studying abroad, within just 3 short years, he took his company public. In the next few years, its growth momentum is even about to surpass the group I built with my own hands. New Year's Eve 2025. The atmosphere in the huge living room is incredibly lively. My parents-in-law, Liu Feng Subin, along with my son and his girlfriend, are all there. Only I sit quietly in the bedroom, wearing the wool scarf and holding the handkerchief that Ching Sai knitted for me back then, caressing her photograph. "Chingti, everything you asked me to do, I finally accomplished it all."